Hello and welcome to an introduction to radicals. We're going to take a look at what these radicals are and what we can do with them. So reverse operation of squaring a number is finding the square root of a number. The simple square root denotes the positive or principal square root of a number. For example, the square root of 5 is 5, only since 5 squared equals 5 and 5 is positive. The symbol negative square root denotes the negative square root of a number. For example, negative square root of 5 equals negative 5 only since negative 5 squared equals negative 5. Okay, and remember the square roots are, with perfect squares, are found right here, and numbers that we're going to be focusing instead of being on the left side of the equals, we write these numbers through here. And these are going to be contained under the radical sign, and we're going to have to work with these perfect squares found inside the radical sign. Okay, so there's radical sign right here. The sign itself is called the radical sign, and the stuff inside is called the radicand. To get started by looking at some examples, first we have the square root of 49. Well, if we refer back to that first slide with the perfect squares, we see 49 can be broken into the product of 7 times 7, which really means 7 squared. And we know that the square root and the square are inverse properties, so we know that the square root of 49 is 7. Looking at 1 over 25, this can be broken into separate pieces. Instead of the radical 1 over 25, we can say radical 25 over radical 25. And as you know, 1 squared makes 1, so the inverse of that, or the square root of 1, would just be 1 over. We know that 25 is the product of 5 and 5, or 5 squared, so to break that down, it would just be 5. And for number 3, it is important that a square root of a negative number is not a real number. So the answer to number 3 is not a real number. Looking at these others, like before, we can break number 4 down. Instead of the radical 1 over 144, we can say radical 1 over radical 144. Knowing that the top will turn 1 because 1 squared is 1, or the inverse of that, the radical of 1 is just 1. 144 can be thought of as the product of 12 and 12, or just 12 squared. So the inverse of the squared and the square root will just yield 12. Okay, looking at number 5, 121 can be thought of as 11, or 11 squared. And 36 can be thought of as 6 and 6, or 6 squared. So we can actually pull these out